2, let's go! Hey, thanks for joining me again. We got some cool stuff in store this week. We did a little bit of work on the Camaro taking care of a leak. We also gave the Roadster a little bit of attention with his dashboard and the shoebox. She let me down. I'll tell you how. We also got our tool talk and our tech tip. Let's check it out. We got the spoiler back from paint today. We're going to go ahead and get that put back on the Camaro, and then we found another problem with the brakes. We're going to go ahead and address that. But let's get this bolted on first to make sure everything fits okay. Alright, so the spoiler looks great on there. Let's get under the car and I'll show you that leak I was talking about. So I went to go move the car and I noticed that leak right there. And at first I thought it was brake fluid, which was kind of scary because brake fluid is corrosive and would ruin the paint. Then a closer inspection, it's actually leaking right here. I traced the fluid up and the fluid was right here on the axle housing. And it is definitely gear oil, but now we need to determine if it's leaking through the seal and dripping out of here, or when somebody did welding on here, if there was an error that caused a crack in the weld to maybe leak. We found our area of concern with our leak. We're going to go in a little bit closer here so you can take a look. I scratched the paint out of the way. You see those two little divots right there? That's where our leak is coming from. This axle has been welded on and ground down prior to coming to this facility, and it looks like they may have gone a little too far. Problem resolved on the Camaro. We got the holes welded up there. We got it back level on the ground. There's no more fluid leaking. We'll take it on some test drives and see how she does. Welcome back for another tool talk. Today we're going to talk about Nutserts. This looks like nothing, but this little thing right here can make your life so much easier. It's a simple little thing. It's kind of like a thread insert. You take this, put it in a piece of sheet metal, flare it out, and then you can screw your bolt into it. Simple as that. No longer have to have a friend on the other side of the firewall holding a bolt or underneath the floor. It makes it a one-man job when bolting in certain things. Let me show you how it works. First, grab your tool. Now this one is huge compared to what you would usually use. They have some handheld ones like riveters, but we got a big one. Select the proper nutsert you want to use and the proper adapter. We're doing 1/4 by 20. Screw it on all the way, and then you're going to take it and insert it into your pre-drilled hole, which this size was 25/64, and you're going to squeeze. And when you squeeze, it's going to pull up that flare and push it together so it'll lock it in place. Let's take a closer look. Make sure you hold it nice and flush in place and just squeeze your two ends. Bingo. Unscrew it. Take your 1/4 by 20 bolt. You can screw it right in there. Look at that, holds it into place very nicely, looks nice and clean. Bam, awesome little tool. The Roadster needs a little bit of attention, so I took some me time to do some more work on it with the steering and the dash. Let me show you what we did. The next thing we had to do was make sure that we can bolt our cowl on. We talked about earlier how this is removable and we'll be able to access our battery and electronics, which will be hidden under here. So we use those nutserts and we can actually go back and put bolts all along, and this will unbolt. We'll make some mounting tabs on the inside, and then we welded this piece in here as a filler panel. We got to hammer it out and get it straight. I had to bend it a little bit, put nutserts in it, and then the dash will bolt right in. Now the boys at Bernie Fest made me a really cool dash. It's right back there. But unfortunately, we couldn't use it because of the changes I made to the interior. We'll go back and add some accents around this, and it'll bolt in as well. Also, with a pop-out windshield frame we're going to make in a later video, we'll be able to now remove the cowl and the dash without any obstruction from the windshield. Last thing we did was we wanted to upgrade the steering column a little bit. It was just kind of boring, so boom. Piece of exhaust pipe, drill some holes in it, make it look like a gun barrel. That'll just slide over like that. Look at that. All right, we're gonna knock out a little bit of bead rolling here on the Roadster dash. We laid our lines out about 1.5 inches from the edge, and we're gonna just go all the way around with the die. This is oversized spots for our gauges to make sure we wouldn't hit, and those marks right there are holes for our mounting locations. Let's go ahead and get it in there and do some rolling. Turned out really nice. It's going to look great. Again, we're going to put our gauges in here. We're either going to do 2 big ones or 1 big one and 4 small ones. If we do the 2 large ones, we'll run some rolls here. We just got to punch our holes out and get it mounted. We'll be good to go. Well, it's another beautiful North Carolina day. Let's take a quick trip up the street to go check out a future client's vehicle. This thing's pretty cool. It's not our regular deal, but it should be pretty fun. So we're in the shoebox getting ready to leave to go check out this. And then I realized something. My alternator's not charging in the shoebox. Look at this. You're not going anywhere on less than 12 volts. And that leads us to today's tech tip. Let's talk about checking your charging system. First things first, make sure you have a charged battery. We have our voltmeter set on voltage DC. You can see the straight lines there. 1 lead on the ground, 1 lead on the positive. Bam, 12.28. Good to go. The next place you want to check is at the positive stud on the back of your alternator. Again, voltmeter set the same. Go to your positive stud, 12.28. That's good news. Now we're going to check it while it's running. Same post. Now that we made our initial checks, we can go ahead and continue with the rest of the inspection of the charging system. The next step is to check your cables. Make sure your battery cable and your alternator power cable is tight at both ends. Ours is tied into the starter solenoid hot post, and it was tight there. Battery cable was tight, but guess what? At the alternator, the battery cable was loose. So we went ahead and snugged that up. She started charging perfectly at 13.9 volts with no issues. Now in your case, if this was not what you found wrong with yours and your cables were clean and tight and your battery was charged and you still weren't charging at your alternator, more than likely, yes, your alternator has failed. Some alternators run an exciter wire. If yours does, you need to check that and make sure it's wired up properly. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Let's go. That's going to wrap it up this week. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad I got some work done on the Roadster, but we still got some customer jobs to finish up. Next week, we're going to move on to charging the air conditioning in the Camaro, as well as doing a nut and bolt on the whole car and do some more test drives and get everything dialed in. Also hoping we might be able to hit a couple cruise-ins because things are starting to open up a little bit here in North Carolina, and I miss seeing other people's cars. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to email me at greasyboycustoms@gmail.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Happy hot rodding.